Martha Johnson drove slowly on the quiet road. It was a cool Friday evening, and the sun was starting to set. The orange and pink sky reminded her of the days when her husband James was still alive. He loved sunsets. 5 years had passed since he died from a heart attack, but Martha still missed him every day. At 58 years old, Martha was a proud black woman who had lived in Oakwood her whole life. She worked hard as a nurse at the local hospital for over 30 years. Everyone in town knew her as a kind and gentle person. Today, she was driving home after visiting her husband's grave at the cemetery, something she did every month. Martha's old blue car moved steadily on the empty road. She was careful to follow all the traffic rules, just as she always did. The radio played soft gospel music as she thought about her only son, Marcus. He had grown up to be such a good man. At 35, Marcus had recently become an important person in their city. Martha smiled thinking about him. He was coming to visit her for dinner on Sunday. Suddenly, bright lights flashed in her rearview mirror. Blue and red lights from a police car made her heart beat faster. Martha checked her speed. She was going under the limit. She hadn't run any stop signs. What could be wrong? She pulled over to the side of the road right away. Martha had taught Marcus from a young age how to behave around police officers. "Keep your hands where they can see them," she would say. "Speak clearly and politely. Don't make sudden moves." These were lessons black mothers had to teach their children to keep them safe. Martha took a deep breath and placed her hands on the steering wheel where they could be seen. She watched in her mirror as the officer stepped out of his car. She recognized him immediately. Officer Richard Collins. He had a reputation in the black community of Oakwood. Officer Collins walked slowly to her car, his hand resting on his gun belt. His face looked stern and unfriendly. Martha's mouth felt dry. "License and registration," Officer Collins said sharply, not even saying hello or explaining why he had stopped her. "Good evening, officer," Martha said in a calm voice. "May I ask why you pulled me over?" Officer Collins frowned. "I said license and registration, ma'am. You can ask questions after you follow my instructions." Martha nodded. "I understand. I'm going to reach for my purse now to get my license." She moved slowly, making sure the officer could see her hands at all times. She found her license and the car registration paper in the glove box. Officer Collins took the documents and looked at them with narrow eyes. "Where are you coming from this evening?" he asked, his voice still cold. "I was visiting my late husband's grave at Pine Hill Cemetery," Martha answered honestly. "Today is the anniversary of his passing." Officer Collins didn't seem to care about her loss. "You were speeding back there, 10 miles over the limit." Martha was confused. She knew she hadn't been speeding. Her old car couldn't even go that fast, and she was always careful. "Officer, I'm certain I wasn't speeding. I always drive carefully." "Are you saying I'm lying, ma'am?" Officer Collins raised his eyebrows. His hand moved back to rest on his gun, making Martha feel scared. "No, sir. I'm just surprised," Martha said carefully. Officer Collins looked at her license again. "Wait in the car. I'll be back." He walked back to his police car with Martha's documents. Martha sat quietly, her heart still racing. She knew what was happening. This wasn't about speeding. This had happened to her before, and to many of her friends and family members too. But Martha held her head high. She had done nothing wrong, and she would stay calm and dignified, just as she had taught Marcus to do. Martha watched Officer Collins through her rearview mirror. He sat in his police car, talking on his radio and typing on his computer. The minutes seemed to stretch forever. Martha tried to stay calm, but her hands were shaking a little. She thought about calling Marcus, but decided against it. Her son had enough to worry about with his new job. In his police car, Officer Collins looked at Martha's license again. "Johnson," he said to himself. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it. He ran her information through the computer system. Martha had a clean record, not even a parking ticket in the last 10 years. This annoyed Officer Collins. He had hoped to find something wrong. Officer Collins was known in Oakwood for pulling over black drivers for small or made-up reasons. Most people didn't complain because they were afraid. The few who did file complaints never got anywhere. The police department always protected their own. After 15 long minutes, Officer Collins finally got out of his car and walked back to Martha. He handed her license and registration back with a ticket. "You're getting a ticket for speeding and for having a broken taillight," he said. Martha was surprised. "A broken taillight? Officer, I had all my lights checked last week during my car service." "Well, your right taillight is out now," Officer Collins said with a small smile. "You might want to get that fixed before someone else pulls you over." Martha wanted to check her taillight, but she knew better than to get out of the car during a traffic stop. She just nodded and took the ticket. It would cost her at least $200, money she had been saving for a special dinner with Marcus to celebrate his new job. "Have a good evening, Mrs. Johnson," Officer Collins said, not meaning it. He walked back to his car. As soon as the police car drove away, Martha got out and checked her taillights. Both were working perfectly. She felt angry and sad at the same time. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened to her, but it still hurt every time. Martha drove home slowly, thinking about what to do. She could fight the ticket in court, but it would be her word against a police officer's. Most judges believe the officers. She could pay the unfair ticket and try to forget about it. Neither option felt right. When Martha got home, she parked in front of her small but neat house. The garden was full of flowers that James had planted years ago. Martha took care of them now, keeping his memory alive through the colorful blooms. Inside, she made herself a cup of hot tea and sat at her kitchen table. The ticket lay in front of her. Martha took out her phone and looked at a picture of Marcus in his new office. Her son had worked so hard to get where he was now. She was so proud of him. Martha thought about calling her friend Betty to tell her what happened, but decided to wait. Tonight, she just wanted to be alone with her thoughts. Later that evening, Martha's phone rang. It was Marcus calling for their regular Friday night chat. "Hey Mom, how are you doing?" His warm voice filled her kitchen. "I'm fine, baby. Just got home a little while ago," Martha said, trying to sound normal. Marcus knew his mother too well. "You don't sound fine. What happened?" Martha sighed. She didn't want to worry him, but she never lied to her son. "I got pulled over on my way home from the cemetery." "Pulled over? For what?" Marcus asked, his voice suddenly serious. "Officer Collins said I was speeding, and he gave me a ticket for that and for a broken taillight that isn't actually broken," Martha explained. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then Marcus spoke, his voice controlled but angry. "Collins? Richard Collins?" "Yes, that's him," Martha confirmed. "You know him?" Marcus took a deep breath before answering. "I know him, Mom, and this isn't the first complaint I've heard about him this month." Martha suddenly remembered what her son's new job was. Maybe she wouldn't have to pay that unfair ticket after all. Marcus Johnson sat in his new office, thinking about his mother's phone call from last night. At 35 years old, Marcus had recently become the first black district attorney in Oakwood's history. His office walls were still bare except for his law degree and a family photo showing him with his parents at his college graduation. His father, James, had his arm around Marcus, smiling with pride. That was 2 years before the heart attack that took him away. Marcus picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Sarah, can you pull Officer Richard Collins' file for me? And I need all citizen complaints against him for the last 3 years." "Right away, sir," Sarah replied. While waiting, Marcus thought about his mother. Martha Johnson had raised him to be strong and fair. She taught him to stand up for what was right, even when it was hard. Now, he had the power to make real changes in Oakwood, and he planned to use it wisely. Sarah knocked on his door 30 minutes later with a thick folder. "Here's everything on Officer Collins, sir. There are 17 formal complaints in the last 3 years, but none resulted in any disciplinary action." Marcus thanked her and started reading. The complaint showed a clear pattern. Officer Collins pulled over black and Hispanic drivers much more often than white drivers. He gave more tickets to people of color, and his reports often had small details that didn't match witness statements. As Marcus read, his anger grew. His mother's experience wasn't a one-time thing. This was how Officer Collins always acted. But no one had ever held him accountable. Marcus's phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Police Chief Wilson. "Good morning, District Attorney Johnson," Chief Wilson said in a friendly voice. "I was hoping we could have lunch next week to discuss how our departments can work together." "Actually, Chief, I'd like to meet sooner," Marcus said. "Would tomorrow be possible? There's an urgent matter I need to discuss with you." The chief agreed to meet the next morning. After hanging up, Marcus continued reading the files until late evening. Meanwhile, Martha was having tea with her best friend Betty at Martha's kitchen table. Betty had been Martha's friend since high school, and they told each other everything. "He gave you a ticket for a broken taillight that wasn't even broken?" Betty asked, shaking her head. "That man has been trouble for years. My nephew got pulled over by him 3 times in 1 month for no good reason." Martha nodded. "I know. But what can we do? It's his word against ours, and the system always believes the officer." Betty took a sip of her tea. "But now your son is part of that system, Martha. Marcus can make changes that others couldn't." "I don't want him fighting my battles," Martha said firmly. "He has enough pressure being the first black DA in Oakwood. I don't want to add to his worries." Betty reached across the table and took Martha's hand. "It's not just your battle. It's for everyone who's been treated unfairly. If Marcus can help fix this broken system, shouldn't he get the chance to try?" Martha thought about Betty's words. Maybe her friend was right. This wasn't just about one unfair ticket. It was about making sure no one else had to face what she and so many others had experienced. Later that night, Martha called Marcus again. "I've been thinking about what happened," she said. "I want to make a formal complaint against Officer Collins." Marcus was surprised. His mother usually avoided conflict. "Are you sure, Mom? You always taught me to pick my battles carefully." "Yes, I'm sure," Martha said with new determination in her voice. "This is the right battle. Not just for me, but for our community." As Martha spoke, Marcus felt proud of his mother's courage. He hadn't told her yet, but he had already started looking into Officer Collins. Tomorrow's meeting with Chief Wilson would be just the beginning. "I support you, Mom," Marcus said, "and I promise you, things are going to change in Oakwood." What neither of them knew was that Officer Collins was about to learn exactly who Martha Johnson's son was, and that knowledge would change everything. The next morning, Officer Richard Collins walked into the police station. He was in a good mood. Yesterday had been a good day. He had given out 8 tickets and made 2 arrests. His boss, Sergeant Miller, always liked officers who brought in lots of tickets. More tickets meant more money for the city. "Collins," Sergeant Miller called from his office door. "Come in here." Officer Collins walked into the small office. Sergeant Miller looked serious. "What's up, Sarge?" Collins asked, still smiling. "You pulled over a woman named Martha Johnson yesterday," Sergeant Miller said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, I remember. Speeding and broken taillight. What about her?" Collins didn't like the serious look on his boss's face. "Did you know who she is?" Sergeant Miller asked. Collins shrugged. "Just some older black woman." "Why?" Sergeant Miller pushed a newspaper across his desk. The front page showed a picture of the new district attorney, Marcus Johnson, at his swearing-in ceremony. Next to him stood Martha Johnson, smiling proudly at her son. "That some older black woman is the mother of our new district attorney," Sergeant Miller said angrily. "And he's coming here this morning with Chief Wilson to talk about citizen complaints against our department." Officer Collins felt his stomach drop. He picked up the newspaper and looked closely at the picture. Yes, it was definitely the same woman he had pulled over yesterday. The same woman he had given an unfair ticket to. "How was I supposed to know?" Collins said. trying to sound confident, but inside, he was worried. You weren't. But now we have a problem, Sergeant Miller said. The DA called Chief Wilson last night. He's looking into complaints about officers targeting black drivers. Your name came up. Before Collins could answer, a young officer knocked on the door. Excuse me, Sergeant. Chief Wilson wants everyone in the meeting room in 10 minutes. The district attorney is here. In the large meeting room, all the officers sat at tables facing the front. Chief Wilson stood at the podium, with Marcus Johnson beside him. Officer Collins sat in the back row, trying to look small. Good morning, everyone, Chief Wilson said. I want to introduce you to our new district attorney, Marcus Johnson. He has some important things to share with us today. Marcus stepped forward. He was tall and well-dressed in a dark blue suit. His face was serious but calm. Officer Collins could see that Marcus looked a lot like his mother, the same kind eyes, but today those eyes looked determined. Thank you, Chief Wilson, Marcus began. I'm here today because we need to talk about trust. Trust between the police and our community. Marcus clicked a button, and a screen behind him showed a chart. This chart shows traffic stops in Oakwood over the last 3 years. Black drivers are pulled over 3 times more often than white drivers. They receive tickets twice as often. But when cases go to court, more than half of those tickets are thrown out because there wasn't a good reason for the stop in the first place. The room was very quiet. Some officers looked down at their hands. Others looked surprised by the numbers. This isn't about blaming individual officers, Marcus continued. This is about fixing a system that isn't working for everyone equally. Starting today, my office will be reviewing all citizen complaints against police officers. We'll also be looking at traffic stop data for patterns of bias. Officer Collins felt sweat on his forehead. He knew his name would be at the top of that review list. I grew up in Oakwood, Marcus said. I respect the hard work our police do every day. Most of you are good officers who want to protect everyone fairly, but we need to do better. Every citizen deserves to be treated with respect, no matter what they look like or where they live. As Marcus spoke, Officer Collins noticed Sergeant Miller looking directly at him. The message was clear. Collins was in serious trouble. One more thing, Marcus said, his voice getting stronger. Yesterday, a black woman was pulled over and given tickets for speeding and a broken taillight. When she checked her taillight afterward, it was working perfectly. This kind of thing has happened too many times in our city. It stops now. Officer Collins sank lower in his chair. He didn't know that Martha Johnson had told her son about the traffic stop. He didn't know that his career was now hanging by a thread. After the meeting, the police officers filed out of the room. Many were talking in low voices about what they had just heard. Officer Collins tried to leave quickly, but Chief Wilson called out to him. Officer Collins, please stay behind. The district attorney would like a word with you. Collins froze. His heart was beating fast as he turned back. The other officers looked at him with mixed expressions. Some seemed sorry for him, while others looked like they thought he deserved whatever was coming. When everyone else had left, Chief Wilson closed the door. Now it was just Collins, the chief, and Marcus Johnson in the room. Officer Collins, Marcus said calmly, I believe you know why I want to talk to you. Collins stood straight, trying to look confident. Sir, if this is about Mrs. Johnson's traffic stop, I was just doing my job. She was speeding. Marcus looked at Collins for a long moment. My mother has never had a speeding ticket in her life, Officer Collins. Her car is 10 years old, and she drives it like it's made of glass. Collins swallowed hard but said nothing. Marcus opened a folder he was carrying. I've been reviewing your record, Officer Collins. In the past 3 years, you've pulled over 382 drivers. Of those, 287 were black or Hispanic. That's 75%. But our town is only 30% black and Hispanic. Can you explain that difference? I don't look at color when I pull people over, Collins said quickly. I just enforce the law. The numbers tell a different story, Marcus replied. He pulled out more papers. You also give more tickets to Black and Hispanic drivers than white drivers that you stop, and you search their cars more often, even though you find illegal items less often. Chief Wilson, who had been quiet, now spoke up. These are serious concerns, Collins. We can't have officers creating mistrust in our community. Collins felt trapped. He had never been questioned like this before. What do you want from me? He asked. First, Marcus said, I want you to admit what you did to my mother was wrong. Collins looked down at his shoes. After a long moment, he spoke. The taillight wasn't broken. I made that up. And the speeding. Marcus pressed. She wasn't speeding, Collins admitted, his voice barely audible. I pulled her over because... He stopped. Because she was black, Marcus finished for him. You saw a black woman driving a decent car and decided to pull her over for no good reason. Collins didn't deny it. For the first time, he felt ashamed. Meanwhile, Martha was at home, cleaning her house. Sunday dinner with Marcus was their special time together. She always made his favorite foods: fried chicken, mac and cheese, and peach cobbler. As she worked, she wondered how Marcus's meeting at the police station was going. Her phone rang. It was Marcus. Hi, Davy, she answered. How did your meeting go? It went well, Mom, Marcus said. I talked to Officer Collins. Martha stopped what she was doing. You did. What happened? He admitted he was wrong. Marcus told her. The tickets are canceled. You don't need to pay anything. Martha sat down at her kitchen table. That's good to hear. But what about the next person he pulls over? What about people who don't have a son who's the district attorney? That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Marcus said. I have an idea, but I need your help. Back at the police station, Collins sat alone in the break room. His mind was racing. In all his years as a police officer, he had never been forced to face his actions like this. He had always believed he was just doing his job. But now, looking at the evidence Marcus Johnson had shown him, he couldn't deny the truth anymore. Officer Peterson, an older black officer who had been on the force for 20 years, sat down across from him. Rough day? Peterson asked. Collins nodded, unable to speak. You know, Peterson said quietly, it's never too late to change how you do things. Trust me, I've seen officers worse than you turn themselves around. Collins looked up, surprised by the kind words. The new DA is giving you a chance, Peterson continued. I suggest you take it. As Collins considered Peterson's words, Chief Wilson appeared at the door. Collins, my office now. We need to discuss your future with this department. Officer Collins sat nervously in Chief Wilson's office. The chief looked serious as he closed the door. Collins, I've been on the force for 30 years, Chief Wilson began. I've seen good cops and bad cops. I always thought you were somewhere in the middle. Not perfect, but doing your job. Collins looked down at his hands. But these numbers that DA Johnson showed us don't lie, the chief continued. You've been targeting black and Hispanic drivers. That's not good policing. That's just wrong. What's going to happen to me? Collins asked, his voice shaking a little. Chief Wilson sighed. The easy thing would be to fire you. DA Johnson has enough evidence to make that happen. Collins felt sick. He had been a police officer for 12 years. It was all he knew how to do. But, the chief said, DA Johnson has another idea. He thinks you can change. He's giving you a choice. Collins looked up, surprised. A choice. Option 1. You resign today. No mark on your record, but you're done as a police officer in this town, Chief Wilson explained. Option 2. You stay, but with conditions. What kind of conditions? Collins asked. You'll work with Officer Peterson on community outreach. You'll take special training about bias in policing. You'll be on probation for 1 year, with regular reviews. And, the chief paused, you'll meet with Martha Johnson and apologize to her face-to-face. Collins was shocked. The DA wants me to meet with his mother, after what I did. It wasn't his idea, Chief Wilson said. It was hers. On Sunday evening, Martha's house was filled with good smells. She was putting the finishing touches on dinner when there was a knock at the door. Marcus answered it. Officer Collins stood on the porch, looking uncomfortable in regular clothes instead of his uniform. He held a small bunch of flowers. "Come in, Officer Collins," Marcus said formally. Collins stepped inside the warm house. Pictures lined the walls. Family photos showing Marcus growing up, graduation pictures, and many photos of an older man who Collins guessed was Martha's late husband. Martha came in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked at Collins with a calm face that showed neither anger nor fear. "Mrs. Johnson," Collins said, his voice awkward, "thank you for letting me come to your home. These are for you." He held out the flowers. Martha took them with a small nod. "Thank you. Please, sit down." They sat in the living room. Collins perched on the edge of his seat like he might need to run away at any moment. "Mrs. Johnson," Collins began, "I came to apologize. What I did to you was wrong. I pulled you over for no good reason. I lied about the broken taillight, and I've done the same thing to many other people." He took a deep breath. "There's no excuse for what I did. I'm truly sorry." Martha looked at him for a long moment. "Why did you do it?" she asked simply. The question caught Collins off guard. He had prepared for anger or even hate, but not for this direct, honest question. He started, then stopped. For the first time, he tried to really think about his actions. "I guess I had ideas in my head about who looked suspicious, who might be breaking the law. And those ideas were based on skin color, not on actual behavior." He looked Martha in the eye. "It was wrong." Martha nodded. "Yes, it was. Do you know why I wanted to meet you, Officer Collins?" Collins shook his head. "Because I wanted you to see me as a person," Martha said. "Not just as a black woman in a car. Not as a statistic. Not as a ticket to write. As a human being with a life and a family and feelings." Collins felt ashamed. He had never thought about the people he pulled over this way. "My husband, James, was a good man," Martha continued, pointing to a photo on the wall. "He taught Marcus to respect everyone, even people who didn't respect him. We raised our son to believe in justice and fairness." Marcus, who had been quiet, now spoke. "My father also taught me that people can change if they truly want to. That's why you're here, Officer Collins, because we believe change is possible." Collins looked at the Johnson family, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe he could change. Maybe he could be better. Martha invited Officer Collins to stay for dinner. At first, he tried to say no, feeling he didn't deserve their kindness. But Martha insisted. "Breaking bread together is how we start to heal," she said simply. The three of them sat at Martha's dining table. The food looked and smelled wonderful. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and fresh rolls. Collins hadn't had a home-cooked meal like this in years. At first, no one talked much. Collins felt awkward. Marcus watched him carefully. Martha passed the food around. "Mrs. Johnson, this is the best fried chicken I've ever had," Collins said after his first bite. Martha smiled a little. "My mother taught me how to make it. She cooked for a white family for 40 years. They never knew her name, just called her the cook. But she made sure I knew who I was, that I had value." Collins listened, really listened, maybe for the first time in his life, to a black person's story. "My father was stopped by police at least once a month," Marcus added. "Never got a ticket. They just wanted to remind him of his place. When I turned 16 and started driving, he taught me what to do when, not if, I got pulled over." "I gave that same talk to Marcus," Martha said, "even though times had changed some, even though he went to college and became a lawyer, because some things hadn't changed enough." Collins put down his fork. "I never thought about it that way. My dad was a cop too. When he talked about pulling people over, it was always about the bad guys. I guess somewhere along the way I started thinking certain people looked more like bad guys than others. The conversation continued through dinner. Collins learned about James Johnson, Martha's late husband, who had worked 2 jobs to put Marcus through college. He heard about Martha's job as a nurse at the local hospital, where she had worked for 30 years. He began to see the Johnsons as real people with full lives. After dinner, as Martha brought out peach cobbler for dessert, Marcus's phone rang. He excused himself to take the call. "Officer Collins," Martha said when they were alone, "can I ask you something?" "Yes, Mom," Collins replied. "Do you have a family? Children?" Collins shook his head. "No, ma'am. I was married once, but it didn't work out. She said I changed after I became a police officer. Got harder, less caring." Martha nodded. "Being a police officer is a hard job. You see people at their worst, but you can't let it make you hard inside." "I think that's what happened to me," Collins admitted. "I started seeing threats everywhere, especially in certain neighborhoods, from certain people." "And that's why you pulled me over?" Martha asked gently. "Yes," Collins said, looking down. "And I'm sorry." "I believe you are," Martha said. "But sorry isn't enough. What will you do now?" Before Collins could answer, Marcus returned. "That was Chief Wilson," Marcus said. "There's been a development. Starting tomorrow, all officers will wear body cameras. The city council approved the funding tonight." Collins looked surprised. "That was fast." "I've been working on it since I took office," Marcus explained. "Your situation just helped speed things up." "Body cameras protect everyone," Martha added. "Good officers have nothing to fear from them. And people like me will feel safer knowing there's a record of what really happens during traffic stops." Collins nodded slowly. "You're right, and I want to be one of those good officers." As the evening ended, Collins thanked Martha and Marcus for dinner. At the door, he turned to them. "I want you both to know that I'm going to take this second chance seriously. I'll be working with Officer Peterson starting tomorrow on community outreach. I want to learn how to be a better officer." Martha smiled. "That's all anyone can ask, Officer Collins, that you try to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday." As Collins walked to his car, he felt different. For the first time in years, he felt hopeful. Maybe he could change. Maybe things in Oakwood could change too. 3 months passed. Officer Collins was a changed man. Working with Officer Peterson had opened his eyes to a different way of policing. Instead of looking for trouble, they'd worked to prevent it. They visited schools to talk to children. They helped elderly people with small problems around their homes. They got to know the people in every neighborhood of Oakwood. One hot summer day, Collins and Peterson were walking through Oak Park, the center of the historically black neighborhood in town. Children played on swings while parents and grandparents watched from benches in the shade. "Officer Collins," a small voice called out. Collins turned to see Jamal, a 10-year-old boy he had met during a school visit. Jamal ran up to him, excited. "I got an A on my math test," Jamal said proudly. "You said if I studied hard, I could do it." Collins smiled. "That's great, Jamal. I knew you could do it." Jamal's grandmother, Mrs. Turner, walked over. 3 months ago, she would have pulled her grandson away from a police officer. Now she smiled at Collins. "He studied all week for that test," Mrs. Turner said. "Ever since you talked to his class about how important education is." As Collins and Peterson continued their walk, Peterson nudged him. "You've come a long way, Collins. The kids around here used to run from you. Now they run to you." Collins nodded. "I was so wrong before. I thought my job was to catch bad guys. Now I understand it's to help build a safe community for everyone." Later that day, Collins was driving his patrol car when he got a call about a car accident. When he arrived at the scene, he saw 2 cars had crashed at an intersection. One driver was Martha Johnson. "Mrs. Johnson, are you hurt?" Collins asked with real concern as he rushed to her car. "I'm a little shaken up, but I'm fine," Martha assured him. She had a small cut on her forehead, but seemed otherwise okay. Collins helped Martha sit on the curb while other officers took care of the second driver, who was also not seriously hurt. Collins got his first aid kit and gently cleaned Martha's cut. "Thank you, Officer Collins," Martha said. "I didn't expect to see you here today." "I'm glad it was me who responded," Collins said honestly. "Let me call Marcus for you." While they waited for Marcus, Collins took Martha's statement about the accident. The other driver had run a red light and hit Martha's car. There were witnesses who confirmed Martha's story. When Marcus arrived, he looked worried. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby," Martha assured him. "Officer Collins has been taking good care of me." Marcus looked at Collins with new respect. "Thank you, officer." Collins nodded. "Just doing my job, sir." That evening, Collins stopped by Martha's house to check on her. Marcus answered the door. "Officer Collins, come in," Marcus said. "Mom's resting, but she's doing well." Collins handed Marcus a small box. "These are cookies from Mrs. Wilson's bakery downtown. I thought your mom might like them." Marcus smiled. "That's very thoughtful. Would you like some coffee?" The two men sat in the kitchen. It was strange to think that just 3 months ago, they had been on opposite sides of a serious problem. Now they were sitting together like friends. "I want you to know," Collins said, "that I'm still working on being better. Every day. The community outreach program has changed how I see my job, how I see people." Marcus nodded. "I've heard good things about your work with Officer Peterson. The kids at Lincoln Elementary can't stop talking about your visits." "That means a lot to me," Collins said. "I want to be part of the solution now, not part of the problem." As Collins was leaving, Martha came into the living room in her bathrobe. "Officer Collins, is that you?" "Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to check on you." Martha smiled. "I'm fine, and I want you to know how proud I am of the changes you've made." Collins felt his eyes get wet. No one had told him they were proud of him in a very long time. "Thank you, Mrs. Johnson," he said softly. "That means more to me than you know." 1 year later, Oakwood Police Department was hosting a special ceremony. The community center was filled with people, officers in their dress uniforms, city officials, and many community members. Martha Johnson sat in the front row next to Marcus, both dressed in their Sunday best. Chief Wilson stood at the podium. "Today marks 1 year since we started our Community First policing program. The results have been remarkable. Arrests are down 30%. Citizen complaints are down 70%. And most importantly, people tell us they feel safer and more trusting of their police department." The crowd applauded. Chief Wilson continued, "None of this would have happened without the work of 2 special officers who showed us all a better way. Please welcome Officer James Peterson and Officer Richard Collins." Peterson and Collins walked onto the stage. Collins looked very different from the angry, biased officer he had been a year ago. He stood taller, smiled more, and had a calm confidence that came from doing good work. "Officer Collins will now say a few words," Chief Wilson announced. Collins stepped up to the microphone. He looked nervous to speak in front of so many people. He took a deep breath and began. "A year ago, I was not a good police officer," Collins said honestly. "I was letting my biases control how I treated people. I pulled over cars because of who was driving them, not because of how they were driving. I was part of the problem." The room was very quiet. Everyone listened carefully. "Then one day, I pulled over a black woman for no good reason. I didn't know it at the time, but she was Martha Johnson, mother of our district attorney." Collins looked directly at Martha. "Mrs. Johnson could have just been angry with me. She had every right to be. But instead, she and her son showed me a better way." Collins continued, "Working with Officer Peterson taught me what real policing should be: helping people, building trust, being part of the community. The people of Oakwood taught me that everyone deserves respect and fair treatment." Martha smiled proudly as Collins spoke. She remembered how afraid she had been that day when he pulled her over, how angry and sad she had felt. Now, a year later, she felt something very different: hope. Today, I'm honored to announce that our Community First policing program will be expanding, Collins said. Thanks to a grant from the state, we will be able to train officers from 10 other police departments. What started here in Oakwood will spread across our state. The crowd stood and clapped. Martha reached for Marcus's hand and squeezed it tight. After the ceremony, there was a small party with cake and punch. Many people came to talk to Collins, including families from neighborhoods he once avoided. Children ran up to give him high fives. Martha made her way through the crowd to speak with Collins. "Officer Collins," she said warmly, "your speech was wonderful." "Thank you, Mrs. Johnson," Collins replied. "None of this would have happened without you." Martha shook her head. "You did the hard work. You were willing to change. That takes real courage." "I have something to show you," Collins said. He pulled out his wallet and showed Martha a small photo tucked inside. It was a picture of Martha, Marcus, and James from their family photos. "Your husband loved sunsets, right?" Martha was surprised. "Yes, he did. How did you know that?" "You mentioned it once, during dinner at your house," Collins explained. "I keep this photo to remind myself of why I do this job. To protect families like yours. To make sure everyone feels safe in our town." Martha felt tears in her eyes. From a simple traffic stop born of bias had come real change, not just for one officer, but for an entire community. As the sun set outside the community center, casting an orange glow through the windows, Martha thought of James. He would be proud of what had happened here. Proud of Marcus for fighting for justice. Proud of her for choosing compassion over anger. And maybe even proud of Officer Collins for proving that people really can change when given the chance. In a world that often seemed divided and broken, the story of a widow, her son, and a biased officer had become something unexpected. A story of hope.